Good evening, everybody. This is your host, Huge Pop of the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. Our guest tonight has been in the wrestling business on the independent circuit for many years. He's known as the manager of champions. He has worked in the many indie promotions and is best known in Mid-States Wrestling and SICW, Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling. He also manages in their Wrestling for Cause promotion, I believe, and other independent promotions. Please welcome to the show, Stefan Espinoza. Did I get that right?
No, you didn't, Scott. But let me help you out. It's Stephen E, my friend. Stephen E. Yes,
man.
yes,
We've
yes.
talked for a little bit before, and I should have asked that question. And now look at me.
Well, that's all right.
I'm like that nuisance that's going to be around that ring tomorrow night, huh?
People call it what they will. They call me a nuisance. They call me nefarious. It doesn't really matter what people think. The only thing that matters is that we're going to walk out of Belle Claire Fairgrounds victorious.
And we'll touch on that. That's one of the questions for last. We'll see.
Marvelous.
All right, man. So, Mr. E, Mr. Stephen E. Did I get that right this time?
You got it right, Scott. You got it
right.
All
right. I'm shooting for the goals now. So as a fan growing up, can you tell me what that was like for you and what experiences you had as a fan?
Gosh, I'm a West Coast kid. So, of course, in the West Coast, I got to watch a lot of WWF, in the golden years or in the 80s and of course in the 90s. So, I was very heavily influenced by the WWF and come, early, well, I'd say late 80s, I started catching on to, WCW once we got cable TV, and all that good stuff. We were able to start picking up TBS and, stuff like that out of Atlanta. So we would get those stations and start tuning into the mothership and all that other stuff. And man, I just have always been a fan of professional wrestling. I mean, some people grow up and they watch baseball. I mean, me personally, I can't sit down and watch baseball. It's just not for me. Not that I'm knocking it, but it's just not for me. My sport is professional wrestling. It just doesn't get any better than that. The drama, the athleticism, just the crowd being into it. It drew me into the wrestling business. And, after 24 years of being in the wrestling business, I feel like I've accomplished a lot. But, for the very first and foremost, me being in the wrestling ring is a dream come true. Me being able to go out there and perform in front of people is a dream come true because, like I said, as a kid in Farmersville, California, I just never thought that that's what I would do. And by God, not only am I doing it, I'm doing it really, 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 really good. Right now, I am on fire, literally.
Yeah, I hear about that. I heard about that. Many people have helped out in this interview, so I'm going to get to those many people. And some are fans of yours, and some not so much.
We don't listen to them guys. Those guys don't know. They don't know the deal. They don't know what's going on. But I'm gonna smarten you up on everything that you need to know. So when we're done with this, Scott, there will be no questions left. There will be answers to the many, many questions that you have.
Awesome, man. So as a fan, I heard there was a pretty cool story about your very first wrestling show that you attended.
Oh yeah. Well, now you're gonna have to emphasize a little bit on that.
Bam Bam Bigelow, push-ups.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. No. That wow, man, you did do your homework because you're talking about 1987 Selland Arena, Fresno, California. Man, main event was, and there's a good like full circle here, and I'll get to that in a second. Main event was Hulk Hogan versus One Man Gang. It was a wrestling challenge taping. When I was a young man, I was very fortunate to know a man named Marty Zeeb, and Marty was somebody that was very special to me early on, and he was a great guy, and he knew that I was very passionate about professional wrestling. And when the WWF came to Fresno, he scored me tickets, and we went for my 12th birthday, I believe is what it was. Wow. So it would have been 1987 or so. Okay. And yeah. That was the battle for Bam Bam, and that's what culminated that night. For all you old guys that remember the battle for Bam Bam, when he came into the WWF back in '87, there was a bid. There was not a bidding war, but all the managers in WWF at the time, Bobby Heenan, Mr. Fuji, Slick, uh, and whoever else, Jimmy Hart, whoever else there was, were all bidding for his, for his services. So, they had kind of like a big, almost like a tournament style, ending for it, which I believe Slick was the one that was awarded his, his contract, to which Oliver Humperdinck came out with Bam Bam Bigelow and turned it up. And, obviously didn't go with Slick. He went with Oliver Humperdinck. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe his first match with WWF was him versus Nikolai Volkov.
Okay, yeah.
Nikolai Volkov was under Slick's tutelage at the time, and that's who got to wrestling. But yeah, another notable event. There, another notable thing that happened that night was the $1 Million Man, making the kid do the push-ups. And yeah, man, that was just so great. It was very long-winded. It was like a 4-hour show. They did 4 1-hour tapings in it, and boy, by the time we were done and over with, I was ready to get home. But man, it was such a great time. That was my very first wrestling show that I went to, which again, like I said, we'll go back in full circle. The very first independent show that I worked on, believe it or not, was in Harrison, Arkansas, for a guy. I can't remember the name of the company, but his name was Matt Cisco, I believe is what his name. Playboy Matt Cisco. Well, in their main event, it was Kevin Northcutt, which he made a good name for him in the early thousands and whatnot, against a one-man gang. So after the show, and my, when I say I worked the show, what I mean is that that I was the guy that was doing the music. And back then this wasn't a fancy pants promotion or anything like that. The music was literally cassette tapes queued up to where they needed to be, and they give them to me, and I had to organize and all that stuff, all the cassette tapes, and put them in. But instead of going through a PA system, I just had the microphone, and you just stick the microphone up to a little boom box. So it was very, very, very budgeted, but at the end of the day, it was still a very cool experience. But I got to talk to One Man Gang after the match, and I had talked to him before, but I got to talk to him a little bit about that show, and he just told me, he goes, man, who would have thought, 10 years ago in Selland Arena in front of 10,000 people, and here we are in Harrison, Arkansas, and there was probably 200 or 300 people there, but it was just kind of cool that my very first wrestling show that I had ever been to, I got to talk to the main event of that, one half of the main event of that show on my first wrestling show that I was ever a part of. So
I don't care, in case people didn't understand what he just said. I think I got this right. As a kid, he went to his first wrestling event and watched it live, and there was a Bam Bam Bigelow tournament to get his thing. And then like 10 years later, as a wrestler and involving in your first wrestling event that you partook in, Bam Bam Bigelow was there too.
Yes.
Or One Man Gang.
One Man Gang. Yep. One Man Gang was there. Yeah.
Man.
Very cool.
My dad popped in for it. He put 3 question marks. So I don't know if he has a question. If you have a question, Dad, type it out. We'll have our guest answer it. So we're going to go further, Stephen E. How did you get involved in wrestling, of a professional wrestling, particularly as a manager?
As a manager, what happened was I attended a show down in Harrison, Arkansas. Before I did before I actually performed on it, I attended a show, and I lived in small town Harrison. It's like, I think like 13,000 people. And, from the moment that I moved into that town, like working and stuff as a kid, talking to people, other people in the town, getting to know people, I had learned that there was this guy in Harrison that was the wrestling guy who, I think he was, maybe voted most likely to be a professional wrestler, yada, 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 all that good stuff. And I actually bumped into him. He happened to be doing the music for the show that I went to. And through talking with this gentleman, he kind of made the acquaintances for me, and I was able to get in there and start doing music and stuff like that. But that man was the Space Cowboy Jason Jones.
Okay.
He was one of his very first shows that he worked, and once I got in and I started doing the music and just kind of helping set up and stuff like that, then by that time Jason had already went off and had started training and doing his thing. And a lot of people may not realize this, but Jason Jones actually had a ring in the bottom of his house when he was like 21 years old. He bought a house and, had a wrestling ring. So we got to go down there and do as much training and all that good stuff, getting beat up and all that stuff. It was awesome. But, in 98, I was involved in an automobile accident that really did a number on my back. And, at that point, I kind of had to step away from, being an active performer and, try to figure out another way that I would be able to go out and perform, because I didn't want to just walk away, but at the same time, it just wasn't it wasn't in the cards. I wasn't ever going to be able to be a full-time performer. And over the years, I've been able to go out there and do one-offs and give the fans, we'll build up for, 6 months and then have, like a match to kind of blow it off or whatever. And, they tend to, how do I say it? They tend to like watching me get beat up, but for 20 plus years, I was undefeated. Some people might say I was protected. I don't care what they say. The fact of the matter is that I was undefeated until November 12th of 2022. I was beat by the Space Cowboy Jason Jones in a Springfield street fight, which was not fun. It was about a 32-minute beating that I had to endure. But yeah, so and also I got to say this too. Back in 2007, I won the Mid States Heavyweight Championship, and I went on about a 7-month run with that, defending it at every show. And some people might say so much that I wasn't defending it, that I was just letting the people on the outside help me continue my path of destruction. But whatever, I was undefeated, and with that back injury that I was talking about earlier, it kind of snuck up on me in late 2007 and prevented me from being able to go out there and work for a couple of months. And doing so, I was stripped of the Mid States Heavyweight Championship. So, for many years, I touted that I was an undefeated former Mid States Heavyweight champion. So people would say, well, how are you undefeated if you're a former? Well, because I was stripped of the title, and that's what happened. So, but yeah, I love to get in there, and I love to perform. I love to get in there and try to draw as much heat as I can, which, I guess I have a pretty good knack at that, but for the most part, I just love performing, man. I just love getting in there, and I love setting the tone for a show. For years, a promoter told me I like to send you out first, Stephen, because you give these fans, that are maybe not your casual fans, you give them a reason to boo you, and or to give you a reason to boo, and they realize with you, okay, I can stand up and I can boo this guy, and a lot of people say, well, how do you deal with the boos, and I just say simple, man. It's like, if I'm getting booed out there, that might as well be a standing ovation for me, especially if I'm getting booed so loud that I can't even hear myself talk, man. And trust me, I've got some lungs, and I'm very long-winded, and I've developed a knack for being able to go for 3 or 4 minutes and not even making any points, but having you go, God, I hate this guy. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Now, I think it's very important to start the match evening off with a solid match that people hate or love, so they get invested. So then you can go through the night. And
absolutely,
if us fans don't get invested, we just turn the TV off and say done.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And it's the same way. It's the same way at a show. If the fans aren't getting into it and getting excited, and that's one of the things that I've always enjoyed. Like, what I bring to the table is, I bring a lot of interaction, but not so much that I'm taking away from what's going on in the ring. I'm very aware of what's going on in the ring, and I'm very aware of what my role is out there. So, to be honest with you, I think that's one of the things that sets me apart from a lot of the other guys that do this managing thing, is that they go into it and there's so much focus on them trying to get themselves over and be the most heelish person. And, I've learned that you don't even have to say anything to somebody. Sometimes it's a simple look or just a lip snarl or something like that. And, that will just get them right up, and you don't even have to say anything to them. And today's day and age, you've got everybody in the world has a camera. So, everybody's got a camera on you, and I see too many times, professionals, right? Because that's what we are. We're in professional wrestling. So we're professionals going out there and laying the heat so thick that they've got a fan jumping over the guardrail trying to get them or something. And it's like, and don't get me wrong, man, I love to have heat, but as a performer, you got to recognize that, like, okay, this could get out of hand. I need to I'll go down 2 people or 3 people and find this kid and make it memorable for him, as opposed to putting the promoter in a position where he's going to have to kick a fan out, because by gosh, that's not the last thing you want to do.
Absolutely. So I sense a little bit of animosity. Maybe not. You got at Mid-State, you were the champion, but they got stripped from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now as a manager, you come in to bring your guys to Mid-State. Is there a little bit of animosity towards the promotion that, hey,
there's not a little bit of animosity, Scott. There's a lot of animosity. Down in Mid-States currently down in Mid-States, I manage Niles Planquet. I mean, everybody knows the wine man. Everybody knows the man with class, the sophisticated, winemaker, Niles Planquet. That guy right there he's just a monster. He's a monster. Doomsday. I manage Doomsday, which he's out with an ACL tear right now. But when he gets back into the ring, boys and girls, it's going to be rough. It's going to be tough, and the list goes on and on. Up at SICW, I currently hold the contracts of Attila Khan, Peyton Ayers, the Sheik Jake Prater, Derek Stone, the Merchant. It's endless possibilities up there, and I just picked up the contract of the Super Destroyer out of Germany. Oh, that guy is a beast, man. I tell you what, like, with the movie that just came out, the Iron Claw, this guy right here, I would put him up against any of the Von Erichs as far as like grip strength. This guy right here is tough. I seen him take an apple with his hand and crush an apple with his hand. So if he's doing that, who could you only imagine the pressure that is on your head whenever he's got that applied to you?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But but just when in the world of professional wrestling, and not just talking about the Midwest, I'm talking about the world of professional wrestling. When you say the name Attila Khan, it strikes fear into any promoters. It strikes fears into the opponents. Everybody knows who Attila Khan is. I tout that he is the most dangerous wrestler on God's green earth. He's the international bounty hunter. He's somebody that I, number one, have in my pocket. Number two, if you come looking for trouble with me, you're going to have to deal with him. And he's not somebody that does he fight fair? No, he don't fight fair. Does he wrestle? I don't know if you want to call that wrestling, but he wins. And that's what matters.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. That whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes.
Absolutely. I like to say, Scott, we work smarter, not harder. And if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying hard enough.
So that's my next question, man. So what qualities do you believe makes a successful in-ring manager? Like, I think one of your answers will be your fireballs.
Oh man, I tell you what, a lot of people have asked me, especially in the last year, it's like, man, fireballs this, fireballs that, how do you do this? How do you do that? And it's simple. I tell them, I will never, ever tell you how I do it, because then you're going to know when it's coming. I don't want you to be prepared for it. I want it to come as a surprise to you, to the fans, to everybody that is involved. I want it to be a surprise, and I'm not going to tell you how I do it. That's silly. I wouldn't tell you how I made my first $1 million.
Right. I mean, you're right. I mean, I can't say you're wrong. I mean, why would you want to tell everybody the secret to?
No, the secret. If I told everybody the secrets to my success, when you start talking about the greatest manager in professional wrestling, I might be left out of the conversation, and I just don't ever want that to happen.
So, greatest managers in professional wrestling. Everybody asks the question, what's the Mount Rushmore of wrestlers? You tell me what the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling managers are.
Well, let me tell you this, Scott. The race for first is not that hard. Everybody, Scott, we didn't talk about this, and I'm going to ask you what you just asked me. Who is the best manager ever?
The best manager? Well, got to be Stephen E.
Outside of Stephen E.
Paul. I love Paul.
Oh my gosh, Scott.
No, I love him. Well, I got several. I mean, I really do. I grew up in the 80s, so I like Slick. I liked him. I'm
going to stop you right there, Scott.
All right,
I'm going to stop you because when you talk about the greatest wrestling manager in history, the conversation stops at Bobby the Brain Heenan. bar
Yeah,
none, the
yeah.
very best that there is. He has set the bar for everybody that's doing this. There is no questions in anybody's mind who the number one manager in professional wrestling is. It's Bobby Heenan. But with that said, the real question that you might ask is who's number two. That right there can get interesting because like you said, Paul. I think Paul's right there in the mix. Jimmy Hart, another one. Gary Hart. I think Gary Hart was just phenomenal. Slick. The
Cornette.
list goes on and on. The list goes on and on. But number one,
Yeah.
it's a very short list. Number one is going to be Bobby the Brain Heenan. And in fact, if I had to put a Mount Rushmore of managers together, I would say, excluding myself, I would say Bobby Heenan front and center. He gets the biggest, the biggest statue. Bobby Heenan, Paul Heyman, Jimmy Hart. Oh gosh, and Jim Cornette.
Yeah, and you named them. You named them, and what I hear when I hear those names is not only are they managers, they can talk and they can, and they're dirty outside the ring, and they do whatever it takes. So all four of those guys and yourself, by what I'm hearing, you guys belong in the same room together.
Oh, I tell you what, I have spent many of hours sitting down talking with Jimmy Hart, learning from him, trying to figure out, just picking his brain, just trying to figure things out. And when you've got somebody like that will sit down and tell you how great of a job you're doing and tell you how sky's the limits for you, man, I tell you what, I don't need any of the fans telling me how good of a job that I do, because I've already been validated by people like Jimmy Hart, by others that I won't mention, but I know I'm good at what I do. I know I'm really good at what I do.
And I'm going to say this. I'm going to piggyback off what you said, and I love the SICW connection that I have with Herb Simmons, you guys, everything. It's nice to hear from Herb that you guys as well feel like I do a great job at what I'm doing. So that I'm like, it lets me know that I'm doing I'm doing something good.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate the family at SICW, you guys. But yeah, so I ask the question all the time about what is your take on listening to those guys in the back? So you get, I mean, shoot, you're with SICW, you're with Mid-State, you've been able to talk to Jimmy Hart, Bobby the Brain. I don't know if you've been able to talk. You've shared rooms with many of those guys.
Oh yeah.
How important is it for you to listen and take notes from them to be how great you are?
Scott, it's very important. And let me just say this, man. If you're in the professional wrestling business, I don't care if you've been in the business for 50 years, you never close your ears. You're always listening, because, obviously things have changed in the professional wrestling world in the last 50 years or whatever. And it's really, how do I say it? It's good to be able to go to the back and to be able to pick somebody's brain. If you're one of those guys that maybe, oh, I don't need to, I figured it all out, whatever. No, you haven't figured it all out. Like those guys right there. Like, I mean, I just think Jimmy Hart, for example, he's been doing this for 40, 50 years. Herb Simmons, I believe, has been promoting for 52, 53 years. It's like, you want to listen to what those guys say, because they've been around for a long time. They've seen the times change. They've seen people come and go. They know what's good. They know what's going to work. I think it's very important. I think it's very important that you listen to the people. And, when I first broke into the business, it was almost a I don't want to say it was a no, to go congregate or to go talk with these guys, but it was a little different back then. You didn't want to come off as a super fan or a mark or whatever. In fact, I'd heard, if you want to get pictures, go buy a ticket, that type of thing. But, at the end of the day, nowadays the business has changed, and people will actually sit down and talk to you. And believe it or not, man, those guys want to sit down and talk to you. They want to tell you, hey, you're doing a great job, or, hey, this is something that you should, that you should try to work on, or, maybe you ought to do this or this. You're always learning. And I've been doing this for 24 years. And, I will always stop if they're doing a seminar. We had James Beard last February down in Harrison. You know, legendary WCCW referee James Beard, and the one of the co-stars of the new film The Iron Claw, James Beard. He was down there. That guy, you know, I'm not a referee. He did a seminar down there. I went down and attended the seminar simply because it's like, this guy's been around for a long time, you know.
Right.
And when he was doing a seminar, he just kept talking about working. And you know, later on we went out and we did our part of the match, and it kind of just clicked, you know. It kind of clicked what he was talking about. And you know, and you know, it's easy to work with some people. I can't tell you how great James is. James is just phenomenal, man. I mean, he's been around for many years, and the knowledge that he possesses is something that everybody should be picking their brains. If you're a referee, absolutely you should be picking his brains. If you're a worker, absolutely. If you're a manager, absolutely, because he's done it for so long. You have to. You never stop learning.
Right. Absolutely, man. So, can you share any memorable moments of your experience as a manager? What would probably be your top most memorable moment?
Gosh, top most memorable moment as a manager, you know, I actually, one of the moments that I had, it wasn't really that long ago. It was probably in March of last year here in Springfield. So in February of last year, we introduced to Mid States Wrestling a cease and desist letter to the Mid States locker room that basically said that, you know, that they couldn't touch me. It was a cease and desist against physical violence against Stephen E. myself. Well, man, they ate it up. They did not like it. And of course, you know, I'm not one that doesn't bring it a little bit, you know. How do I say it? The fans, just when I came out to open the show to do a promo, and it was so loud, I literally couldn't hear myself talk. And you know, we're talking, it's probably 600 people in this, and it was just so loud. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I might have to just invest into a monitor system, you know, the little monitors you stick in your ears so you can hear yourself talk, because it was so loud. I just couldn't stay on track, you know, and I'd have to stop because it kind of had the Vicky Guerrero effect, if you know what
Okay.
I mean. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I just literally couldn't say anything. I mean, and there's footage of it online
Is
from
this
whenever it happened,
is
and
this
it
it?
was.
This might be it. I don't know. I looked up some footage. I got certain people sent me some footage, so I don't know if this is it.
Really give it to me then. They give it to me then. That was the show where where Nigel Rabbit and Brittany Houflin came down and worked with us. And you know, it was awesome to number one, pick Nigel's brain, because Nigel's one of the premier managers in this business today. And you know, it's always nice to you know, to be able to talk with somebody that, you know, that has the expertise that he does. But Brittany, she's just fantastic, man. She's awesome. And you know, she put a post on Facebook the next day as they were driving home, because they had a little bit of a drive. But she put a post on just saying that the energy was so electric, and she couldn't hardly hear herself talk. And you know, that doing commentary was hard because it was so loud in there.
Yeah.
And you know, it just, that really validates you, you know. And I know earlier I said, you know, I've been validated, but you know who really has validated me is the fans. The fans have really validated me. I've had people come in and say, "Hey, you're doing a great job. Good job. Keep up the work. You're great." You know, that really it really meant a lot to me. But you know, there's no better feeling of validation until you get validated by the fans. Until the fans, you know you got them. You know you got them, and you know that just whether it's, getting on the microphone, and sometimes you don't even have to get on the microphone. Sometimes you can just give them a look, man, and they are just in a frenzy. You just whip them into a
Yeah.
frenzy, and
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love being able to do that.
That's awesome, man. So that was loud, man. So you get the crowd going for sure. So,
Hmm.
so how do you prepare for a match as a manager? Do you have specific strategies and tactics that you use?
Yeah, yeah. First and foremost, win. That's the number one tactic. We got to walk out. We got to walk out there and win. If we are not winning, then then we're fly by night, so we go out there. But, at the end of the day, I'm going to do what it takes to get the job done, and if that means that I got to get my hands dirty, then I'm going to get my hands dirty. I've been accused of throwing fireballs, and there might even be a little bit of photo evidence of that. But, my tactics are my tactics. I'll do whatever it takes to win. And, when you have to answer to the investors that I have, they're not gonna be kind. They're not gonna play kindly to me if I'm coming to them in defeat. If I'm coming to them without, results that they want. It just doesn't. One of the things that I've learned, is Yalla. Look that up. You look that up. Yalla. That means that's what my investors keep telling me, that I need to emphasize to Herb Simmons. They keep telling me, emphasize Yalla, and it means hurry up. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. Let's get on with this sale. Because Herb Simmons have been ducking me. We've been in the process of trying to purchase SICW for a little over a year now, and he didn't take me serious, I think, for the first couple of months. And I presented him with a formal offer, and that changed his. That changed the way he looks at me, I think.
Was this the former offer?
No, that wasn't. It was a little bit more than that right there. But
okay.
But yeah, that right there is in Las Vegas, Nevada, man.
All right. Well, Herb popped. Well, we got to get to some comments in the chat here. Eric Pruitt says, "I like Stephen E, but I can't say that the events for fear of retribution."
Yeah, some people have asked me in the past. They say, you go out there and you cause up such you stir the pot so much. Aren't you afraid that some fans gonna? Man, look who's in the ring. You got Attila Khan in the ring. Like, would you want to? I would not. I mean, that guy right there. I would not want to be on his bad side. And when you mess with me, you're going to be on his bad side. That's not where anybody wants to be.
Well, I'm the pot stirrer, so me and you have something in common, man.
There you go. Absolutely.
And I'm excited because I talked to Herb Simmons earlier, and we're working on getting Attila Khan to come on the show. So we'll see.
Oh man, interesting. Yeah.
So Herb Simmons says, have him tell you about when you first met Herb Simmons.
Oh man, okay. When I first met Herb Simmons, Herb Simmons came down to a mid-states wrestling show, and and I felt almost like a high school pitcher playing in front of a scout. If you follow me, I knew Herb was there, and I knew who he was. I mean, legendary, promoter out of St. Louis. Everybody knows Wrestling at the Chase. Everybody knows SICW. He's a predecessor to Sam Mushnick and Larry Matisic, and so I knew who he was, and we went down there, and I got the call to be Attila's manager. And, we went down there, and I wanted to make a statement, and I had Attila go out there and destroy, at the time, a fan favorite, Alan Jefferson, the Aerial American Alan Jefferson. And he went out there and destroyed the Aerial American. And, of course, the referee tried to call for a break. And, the only person that Attila listens to is the person that pays him, and that's me. And he wouldn't break. I was telling him, I was barking orders at him, telling him to continue the beat down, hurt him, destroy him, break his neck, I think is what it was. And all of a sudden out comes Space Cowboy and Gary, Roosevelt Graham to make the save or whatever. And, so we basically did a setup for Space Cowboy versus Attila Khan. The Space Cowboy wanted to stick his nose in our business. We were gonna, we're gonna make it easy for him. And so he, we did that. Show's over, done with, all that good stuff. Everybody said their byes. I can remember coming home and telling my wife that I was a little disappointed. And she looks at me and she says, well, why? And I said, well, because Herb was there, and Herb come up to me and told me how great of a job that I had done. And, and I thought, okay, yeah. Like, maybe this is an opportunity for me to venture up into St. Louis and practice my trade up there. And, and kind of left it at that and said, oh, okay, it's like, well, I told my wife, I said, I'm a little disappointed that he didn't get my contact info or anything, but hey, we'll see where it goes. And anyways, the next day, promoter calls me up and says, "Hey, I just got off the phone with Herb Simmons, and he wants to bring you up to SICW." And I just was tickled to death, man. I was tickled to death to be able to go up there and perform in that St. Louis, because man, St. Louis is there's so much history involved in St. Louis pro wrestling. I mean, there's so much history, and just to be a part of that, and nobody can take that away from me. Nobody can take away that I have been for the last 2 years a part of St. Louis wrestling. And man, I love it. I love being a part of SICW Explosion Television, because they'll have us. We'll be on there and we'll be cutting it up, and we'll have a match or something like that. And then following our match, you'll have somebody like Ted DiBiase versus whoever, or Dr. Death Steve Williams, or whoever. Many of the guys that came through the area and wrestled the Chase. So that's what we're really trying to do up in St. Louis, is keep the memories of the Chase alive up there. And by God, I think we're doing it.
You are. I mean, Territory Days, Chase. I mean, I've talked to a bunch of promoters down here in Florida, CWF Florida, and they just announced that they're going to merge with NWA Florida to bring that Territory Days back to where it used to be. And so it's exciting to work with guys like you and SACW and Herb Simmons, Mid-State Wrestling and stuff, because it's back. You get the old school feel. The first time I watched an SICW show on YouTube, it was, oh my God, it reminded you of back in the day when Gorilla Monsoon was ringside, having an interview with the wrestler that just got out of the ring. I mean, that's what you guys do. That's what puts you.
I tell you what, I absolutely love that studio feel, that studio vibe. Absolutely. It just screams Memphis, like Memphis studio wrestling to me. And again, I was a WWF kid growing up, so everybody remembers the 80s in WWF. So when I got a little older and I started seeing, I believe it was USWA on ESPN, or maybe WCCW. I can't remember which one it was, but when I started watching that, I really fell in love with the product because it was so different than what I was used to. And it was small. You didn't have the huge arenas like you had in WWE. It was more intimate, and I just love that. I love being out there and doing a promo on TV and just turning to the crowd real quick and just telling everybody shut up. That just does it for me, man. And when you can get that small crowd to just pick themselves up and rise up and start being as loud as you are in front of, because sometimes there might be 50, 60 people at these events, because they're done like that by design. They're not you're not meant to have 1,000 people in the studio. It didn't work like that. But when you go out there and you get that small group of people so loud that it feels like you're in front of hundreds of people, man, that's just such a good feeling.
Where is SICW? SICW is out of Belleville.
SICW is out of we do our monthly shows in Belleville at the famous Belle Claire Fairgrounds, and then we actually do our TV tapings in East Carondelet, Illinois.
Awesome. So, I could not imagine there wouldn't be any, but I have to ask: is there any ribs or any car ride stories that you could share? Maybe one.
Oh man, yes, I will tell you one, and this happened. Just happened on, I believe, the 17th of December in St. Joseph. I love it, Rex. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to lay it out there. Okay, so we're in the back, and the gentleman come up to me and he says, "Hey, are you managing Rex?" Because I've managed Rex Amadeus a time or two in Mid-States, and I said, I'm not currently, but I can. What do I need to, what do we need to do? And we laid it out, and he said, okay. And, but don't say anything to Rex. We're kind of keeping this a surprise. So what it was me and Rex went out there and laid out the open challenge. It's like, it's ridiculous that we showed up to an event and we're not even on, and Rex Amadeus isn't even on the card. So what do? I go out there and I make an open challenge for Rex Amadeus. And, lo and behold, we're in the middle of the ring. He has no idea. He thinks that it's going to be Jimmy Fiasco, which Jimmy Fiasco is at the event. And Jimmy Fiasco is a real fun-loving character, hyped up, and man with the neon hands, just just a world. Dude is just a party. He's just a fun individual. Well, he was over there selling popcorn and selling drinks and stuff at the concession stands, and all night he was telling me, he goes, I think it's Jimmy. I think it's Jimmy. I think it's Jimmy. I think that's gonna be who answers the call. And of course, we go through the motions of it, and lay the challenge out, and lo and behold, Moonshine Mantell, his music hits, and he hits the ring, and and Rex like leans into me and he goes, "Oh, F," and just he cusses. He says, "Oh," or he may have said, "Oh, the oh, poop." I don't know what type of a crowd we got here, so I don't want to say
ahead. Say the words. I don't care.
Okay, he said, "Oh, fuck, that's Moonshine Mantell." And it was just funny. And Moonshine come in, and he grabs the rail, and there's video of it. He grabs the rail, and he just starts, and he pulls the rail down and smacks. Oh, it was so great. And you could just see it in Rex's eyes, dude. He was so afraid. And it was about, probably about a 4-minute just ass whooping you wouldn't believe. And it was freaking awesome. It was unfortunate because I wanted Rex Amadeus to walk out of there with a victory.
Yeah.
But as soon as I seen Moonshine Mantell, come through the curtain, I knew that it was going to be a long night. So, but that was a pretty good rib right there. That was a pretty good rib, because, like you said, oh shit, or off. That's Moonshine.
Yeah.
And you just had to be there, and yeah, it was excellent. So, Rex, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, what was going on before it happened. So I kind of laid him out on the clothes hanger, or what is it, the clothesline to dry out, I guess. I don't know.
Nice. So we're getting close to the kids question, because like I said, every show I have kids questions. I work with foster kids, but I have a couple questions about storylines in the business of wrestling. So, what is your all-time favorite storyline in the business?
Gosh, let me think about this for a second. All-time favorite storyline. I mean, there's a lot of them, man, and there's a lot of them that that we've tried to recycle over the years. Again, later on in life, I discovered, DVDs and early NWA stuff, tapes and whatnot. The Midnight Rider stuff was brilliant, man. I mean, that was brilliant stuff. Hulkamania, Hulkamania was great. NWO was great. There's so many different ones. I don't know if I can pin down my all-time favorite. I just have so many of them that come to mind. But NWO was huge, man. NWO was huge. Anybody tell you otherwise, they're trying to kid themselves. I think
NWO revived.
Yeah.
Brought back wrestling, if you would.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I was talking to my brother earlier today. You're talking about Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant with Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yeah.
What a great storyline.
I can remember that as a kid, and I watched it. I can't remember if it was Superstars or Challenge, or maybe it's Saturday Night's Main Event. But when Andre came out and did the chain, ripped the chain. Yeah. And it just like, as an 11, 12, maybe not even 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, man, I was just like, that was the very first, like, what are you doing? No, like that's Hulk Hogan, man. You can't do that. Like, what are you doing? And to align himself with Bobby Heenan, no less. I mean, Bobby Heenan was just a scurvy. I didn't appreciate Bobby Heenan until my later years in life. But at the time, I absolutely hated Bobby for that. That was
right. And
horrible.
But it kept us invested.
Oh, 100%, man. I Scott, I was invested in wrestling all the time, man. I was tore up with it. I was so. Let me tell you a story real quick about how tore up I was with wrestling. My grandmother bought me a box of magazines from the 80s, PWI, all that good stuff. And do you remember, the WCW hotline and the PWI hotline and all that stuff? Well, back then they it was at 99 cents a minute or whatever it was, but I called into the PWI number, which I don't know if it's still around or not, but I called into PWI, and they would do like this trivia, and you had an opportunity to win prizes or whatever, and
Mhm.
and I would call in, and I'm just a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid. I don't understand what 99 cents a minute or $1.99 a minute stand. I don't know what none of that
Right.
stuff means. I tell you what, man, my grandmother set my ass on fire when she got that phone bill,
Yeah.
and then to rub salt in the wounds. You know what happened? I won a jacket. I won a PWI satin jacket, and they sent it to me, right? A
Uh-huh.
satin jacket, the Ribera, the satin coats, the
Yeah.
old school
Yeah.
satin. A PWI 500. If I still had that jacket today, I bet you I could get $500 for that jacket.
Probably could.
And it probably cost. She always used to tell everybody it was her $1,000 jacket. So I'm assuming the phone bill was around $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was great, but that's that was something that kind of stuck with me early on with wrestling. But I've just been a fan for forever. I've been a fan forever, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to get involved in the world of professional wrestling.
Absolutely, man. So I got to ask, I see that hat on. You're a KC Chiefs
Oh
fan?
man. You know what, man? The KC Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl again, and hopefully tomorrow, when it's like 4 degrees outside, they shell shock Miami, because
Oh, I mean,
Miami's coming into. I think that's what they say the temperature's supposed to be, somewhere in
or
single digits, like 4 degrees or so. So we'll see what how well they perform when they come into Arrowhead or Geha Stadium, or whatever they call it, Geha Stadium. I don't know how they pronounce it, but once they come in here and get a taste of this cold. Now Tyreek, of course, he's gonna do all right. He played here for many, many years, but
yep.
yeah, I'm a diehard Casey fan.
Okay. I picked it. My brother and I do a sports show on Friday afternoons, and I picked KC to beat Dolphins. I live in Florida. I think the Dolphins can beat KC, but I
Yeah.
don't think they can beat KC in 4-degree weather.
Right, right, and again, I absolutely I'm a Chiefs fan. I love them to death. They're my team. But this hasn't necessarily been our greatest year. I think that people are finally starting to figure out how to play us, and it's getting a little harder for us to go out there and throw up 42 points, a game. And people are just, it happened with Vic when Vic came back, and played for Philadelphia. He had about 6 games where he was just blowing it up, and then people figured out how to play him, and adjusted, and making those adjustments. They figured out his game. So, he wasn't quite the same after a couple of years. I mean, he was all
Right.
right because he's an athlete, but as far as being that elite quarterback, he wasn't an elite quarterback, but for maybe 1 year, 2 years after that.
So SICW Bobby D says Chiefs are going down. Then he follows that up by, well, I'll let you look at that again, just in case you needed to look at that.
No, 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 Bobby. Chiefs are not going down. The ice game. Ugh. Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to say that they don't, but you know what? We have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I
But
didn't say
but
that, did I?
but you know why they're I'm going to predict why the Chiefs, if they lose, it's because it hit the news today on TikTok, if you can believe TikTok, that Kelsey and Taylor Swift separated. So that might be good for you Chiefs
That's
fans, because
probably good. That's
now
probably
Kelsey
good.
can catch the ball, because obviously with her in his sights, he can't catch shit.
I tell you what, that's not only been his his Achilles heel. That's been the receiver's Achilles heel. Like, gosh, man, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Tyreek Hill, let him go, he can go, whatever, whatever. I knew that we were going to be in trouble when we let him go, man. Like, you literally let the best receiver in football go, the fastest. Yeah, I mean, Mahomes has got an arm. Everybody knows that. And Cheetah's got a set of legs, man. Guy can just move faster than anybody else. And when you take that dynamic away from each other, it's going to hurt, And we've been trying to figure out how to, you know, uh, how to replace him for a couple of years now, and I just don't know if we can, man. He's really, really good, and I'm going to go on the record and say that he's really good. Unlike the Dallas Cowboys, Bobby D. The Dallas Cowboys they're not playing this weekend. They got a bye, didn't they?
No, they play the Green Bay Packers now.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to go on the record and say Bobby D, you might as well pack up your gear right now because the Packers are going to wipe the slate of the Cowboys. You got to look out, man. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
there's a meme that hits the internet, about, I don't know, about 6-8 weeks into football, and it's a meme about, it's the Dallas Cowboy fan cycle, and it's like, we them boys, we're doing good, and then they get down to the third part, and it's like, we're starting to slip away, and then we'll get them next year. That's always the
That's where
last
they're
thing.
at.
It's like,
That's where they're
yep.
going to be at tomorrow. We'll
Oh,
get them next year.
Bobby D. Did you hear that? They are done.
Jordan Love has everything on that defense. Don't get me started on the Cowboys. I'm a Detroit Lions fan, and you guys bring referees to win your games because let's face it, Bobby D. When the Detroit Lions were in your building, the only reason why you guys won is because the refs screwed up, and you know it. Every Dallas Cowboy knows it. Yeah, so let's get back to wrestling.
Hey, you got to give the Lions their due, though, man.
Yes,
they're a good team this year, man.
Yep.
Like I was actually very upset. That first game when they came in and they beat us.
Yes,
it's like are you kidding me? You guys
get used to that. If your Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl, my Lions are going to the Super Bowl, and then we'll have to have a conversation.
Oh man, that'll be interesting.
Let's get to the kids' questions.
Yes.
Favorite food.
Favorite food, man. My favorite food is right now. There's a Korean barbecue place in Springfield, Missouri called Bowie. Korean barbecue and grill, man. I love it. It's one of those places you go in, you got a barbecue in front of you. You do that. I love that. But outside of that, man, I love Springfield cashew chicken, man. That's probably something I eat twice a week.
Okay. Are you a pizza boy?
Love pizza, man. Love it.
Pineapple.
Right now, I'm on. Believe it or not, right now I'm on this Little Caesars like pretzel crust or whatever. We had it last night.
Does pineapple belong on that pizza?
Good, yeah, sure. Why not? Anything. Okay. If it tastes good, it tastes good.
If you could be a superhero, what would your magic power be?
Oh man,
flaming fireballs.
Oh, power of persuasion.
Okay. If you had a time machine, where would you go?
I've thought about this before. I honestly, I would probably go back to Farm Aid in, what was that, 84, 85, 86.
Yeah.
And I would watch that concert. Man, Queen killed it, dude. They just, like, I'm a big Queen fan. And I think, when you talk about live performances, I don't know if it gets much better than that. And, I would do that. Or I'd go back and watch a bunch of the early Tyson fights, but I would leave my cell phone in my pocket.
All right. Yeah.
Some people might catch that reference.
Yeah. If you can meet a celebrity, who would it be?
Gosh. Any celebrity in the world would probably be Jason Momoa.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Because I would. Gotta let me explain why I would want to meet him.
Sorry, man.
So I could punch him right in the face. My wife absolutely loves that guy. There's no. That's her favorite. That's her favorite guy in the world, besides me.
Favorite movie?
Gosh, favorite movie. Big Fish is pretty good. I like Big Fish. Christmas Story. I probably watch that more times just simply because it's on every December, 300 times a month, but yeah, Christmas Story. It's a good one.
Those Hallmark movies, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that the one that the Walmart, they're in Walmart or something like that? I call it, my wife we watched that movie, the Walmart. I call it the Walmart Story. It's around Christmas time all the time, so I don't know. Do you acknowledge the tribal chief?
Yeah, I do acknowledge the tribal chief, man. That guy right there is really carried the WWE into where it's at right now. I mean, like, some people can say what they want to say about the guy, but the fact of the matter is, man, I mean, like, what he's over 1,000 days, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's over 1,000 days, man. He didn't he didn't get to that position by being a fly-by-night guy, So yeah, absolutely, I acknowledge him. In fact, for a long time, the only thing that I would tune into, I would, DVR the show, and I watch it to keep up with, the current stuff and whatnot. But I would fast forward through a lot of stuff. But whenever it would get to that the bloodline stuff, I'd always tune in and watch it. Man, that whole Sami Zayn storyline that they did with that was brilliant, man. It was gold.
So Bobby D, I want one more question before we get to the wrestling stuff again. Thoughts on the Christmas Story remake? I haven't seen it.
Didn't watch it. I didn't even know that there was one.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I did happen to. I went to there's a little theater here in Springfield called the Springfield Little Theater, and they put on a bunch of plays and stuff like that. And me and my wife, they did the Christmas Story, so we went and watched that. And that was very cool, man. It was very cool. But I haven't seen the remake, but I would watch it.
Awesome. So here's one of the more serious questions I ask, and then we'll get into the SICW mid-state stuff. Can you talk about brotherhood in professional wrestling and paying it back?
Gosh, man, a lot of people ask me, what it is that I enjoy so much about the wrestling business, and that's one thing you touched on right there. Is the fellowship that you have in the locker room with the promoters, with the other workers, with some of the fans, even not in the locker room, but just some of the fans. You build these relationships with them, and I just I love the fellowship, man. I love being able to just be around these guys that I consider good people, that I consider friends. When you surround yourself with positive people, it's amazing what happens, man. And that's why I choose I pick and choose where I work. I just don't go anywhere. I really pick and choose where I work, and I wanted to work with Herb because over the years I'd heard about the locker room, and they've got a great locker room up there, man. I mean, those guys are phenomenal. They're just good guys. They'll let you know when when you did something wrong, and they'll praise you and pat you on the back whenever you do something good. And besides, I mean, when you come through the curtain and you've got somebody like Steve Fender, superstar Steve Fender, who is just he's one of the premier wrestlers in our area, and he's a Harley guy. So Charlie Race trained him. He just phenomenal, man. And you've got him standing at the curtain ready to give you a little bit of feedback on what you could have done better or what you should have done, or no, you did good, you did great, I mean, that's awesome. When you've got good veterans that you can turn to, it just makes it smooth, and it makes everybody else in the locker room enjoy their time. And then that just you really see that everybody enjoys being around everybody, except for Bobby D. Nobody likes to be around Bobby D.
Well, I mean, he's a Dallas Cowboy fan, so
That's right.
So on the brotherhood stuff and stuff like that, for me, I'm learning more about it, and I'm very, like you mentioned, you said something, picking and choosing, and when I ventured onto this podcast stuff, I was not picking and choosing. I was just going and stuff. And then I realized it's important that I would solidify, or I would make my stamp on certain areas. And that's why I chose to go Florida, because I live here, and then up in the Midwest with SICW, the Missouri area, because you guys are just respectable people. You guys are good people, and I just thank you for that. So,
well, and what we bring to the table is old school wrestling, man.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what it, I mean, fireballs, it's just old school wrestling, man. And that's what we're continuing. We're continuing that tradition, and again, I touched on it earlier and talked about how much of an honor and how just great it feels to be a part of St. Louis and to be a part of Southern Missouri and North Arkansas. Down in mid states, man, we've been running down in mid states for, I think we just celebrated 21 or 22 years down there. And literally I've been there since day one. I was on their first show. I came out as an advisor, a financial advisor for Mr. Saturday Night, Michael Berry, and his valet at the time, Sassy Merlot. And I came out and did that. And man, it was just, if I, looking back on it now, that I think it would last 20 something years. I don't know if I thought it would last 20 something years, but I tell you what, man, I've had so much fun. The ride has been incredible. It's been incredible down there. Mid States is my home. I love the crowd, and I've learned to work that crowd. And I want to say it was about 4 years ago we expanded up into the Springfield market. So we Harrison, Arkansas is about an hour and 15 minutes south of me, so it's not too far of a drive. And that's one of the things, again, when you say pick and choose, I've always been like financially successful outside of the wrestling business. So of course, having that success outside of the wrestling business has afforded me a lot of things, in the wrestling business, of course, picking and choosing. I'm not just going to go work for any,
Right.
any promotion. I firmly believe in loyalty, and right now my loyalty lies with Mid States Wrestling and SICW Wrestling. Those guys have been great. I love their product. I love what they do. They're not town killers, and what I mean by town killers is, these guys come in, run a show in a town. For instance, like Harrison, Arkansas. We've been running that place for 22 years or so. Every couple of years we'll get some other company that'll come in and they run a show that, that maybe draws 75, 100 people, maybe not even that, maybe 50. But then when you're dealing with small towns like Harrison, you got that show, so somebody sees our flyer for Mid States, and what we have is completely different than what they brought to the table, but they look at it, and they might just be a casual fan. They'll look at it and they go, well, we went to that wrestling last month and it really didn't, I wasn't really impressed. Well, it's not the same. It's not the same. When you got somebody who's been doing this. Space Cowboy Jason Jones has been in the wrestling business for 26, 27 years. He's been promoting for 22 years. Herb Simmons, 50 something years, he's been promoting. It's best to stick with the people that are going to lead you to the promised land, so to speak. You don't want to go, I don't want to be associated with somebody that's drawing 15, 20 people. I won't say which company, but we went out and did a show last year. Me and the Silverback, Big Joe Helms, went to the show, and if this tells you anything, I don't know why the promoter didn't promote it. Like we were getting up and we knew that it was coming up, and I'd called the Silverback, Big Joe Helms, like that Monday, and said, hey, we got this weekend and wherever, and he goes, no, he goes, I don't think so, man. He goes, I haven't seen any promotions. I just initial talks months ago about booking it. And then, about 11 o'clock, Joe calls me back and he goes, hey, just got on the phone with the promoter. He said he called and asked what time we were going to be down, so I guess it's a go. And so we get on the road, and this was a show that was about 4 hours away. So we get on the show, we get on the road and get there. We get there in plenty of time or whatever, and the show opens up, and the show opens with us coming out. And I usually will do this bit, when I'm doing my promo. It's like, you people need to sit down and shut up and show me some respect. It's like, I went out there, grabbed the microphone, and I'm standing there and I'm looking in the crowd, and I do the spiel, you people need to sit down, shut up, and show me the respect that I deserve, or something along that lines. And like, I looked out and there was nobody up, there was nobody saying anything, and there was about 10 people in the crowd. And I was like, okay. And I remember just looking over at the Silverback, at Joe, and Joe's kind of chuckling or whatever under his mask, and he wears a big mask, and he's chuckling underneath it or whatever. And yeah, that was an experience. I haven't worked a show like that in probably 20 years. It's everybody has those stories of those shows that they worked where they showed up and there was only a handful of people in the crowd or whatever. And unfortunately, that isn't the lowest crowd that I've worked in front of. One time we did a show for a company that's now defunct in Neosho, Missouri, and we got there, and I think there were 6 people in the crowd. So that was a big drop on the promoter's part to actually do some promoting and stuff like that. But the good news is there was only 6 people there, and that's when I made my in-ring debut. I was a manager at the time, and they was like, hey, we're gonna have a battle royal, you're going over. Oh, okay. So
Right.
so yeah, so I cheated and won the battle royal.
Of course.
And
Why wouldn't you?
yeah, and that started a 20+ year undefeated streak.
There you go. So here's where things might start heating up, everybody.
Oh, let's bring it.
So you talk about the Space Cowboy. In the Mid States Wrestling, do you work harder than the Space Cowboy?
No, there's nobody that works harder than the Space Cowboy Jason Jones. If I did work harder than the Space Cowboy Jason Jones, you would see my name wouldn't be Stephen E, the manager of champions. I would be the hardest working man in professional wrestling. But I there isn't anybody that works as hard as that guy. And that might be pulling the curtain back a little bit, but that guy busts his ass every month, every 2 weeks. If we're running every 2 weeks, in fact, we're actually getting ready in the month of February. We're running every weekend down in Harrison. So for 4 weeks, we'll be down there in Harrison, Arkansas, and this is the second time that we've done that. And we just came off of a three day loop where we were down in St. Joe, or we were down in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, Springfield, Missouri, and St. Joseph, Missouri. So, to be able to set all that stuff up, and there's a lot of moving parts, obviously. It's not just him, but he has developed the formula to be successful in the professional wrestling business. So as much as I'd like to say that I work harder than Space Cowboy Jason Jones, man, I don't think there's anybody that works harder than that guy.
Bobby D says Jason works harder than an ugly stripper.
That is 100% true. That is 100% true, man. I mean, if you go back and find some of the early mid-state stuff, where we were just getting started down there in Arkansas, and he was building that territory up, we were working in front of 100, 125 people, which, at the time felt like I was working, the Pontiac, I figure I'm in front of 90,000 people in front of 120 people, but and in my mind, that's how it felt, but that's not the reality of it. The reality was, there's 120 people, but man, I tell you what, I want to say it was about, man, we really started hitting our stride probably in like 2012, and not saying that prior to 2012, because that's 11 years or whatever. I mean, we had already been doing legend shows, and we were doing 12, 15 shows a year, at that point for mid states, but that to man, he busts his ass, man. And let me tell you what, man, if you have never, man, guy, nobody absolutely in the world of professional wrestling works harder than Space Cowboy Jason Jones. I'll give him his due. Let's just say that.
Awesome. That was a question that was given to me by somebody.
Yeah, sorry it was a little long-winded, but
that's okay. You're good. How did you become the rightful owner of the Devastation Incorporated name?
The Devastation Incorporated name. I worked with Skandar Akbar in 2008. I was 2007. I was the Mid-States Heavyweight Champion, and we brought Skandar Akbar and Danny Hodge to West Plains, Missouri, at the West Plains, I believe, Civic Center. And and Skandar was in my corner. Danny Hodge was in Space Cowboy Jason Jones' corner. We went out there, we took care of business, and walked away with the win. And we're in the back, and we're talking. And Skandar, it was such an honor just to even be in his presence. And he told me, he said, Steven, he goes, brother, everywhere you go, you tell them you're Devastation Incorporated. Everywhere you go, you make sure to let them know you're Devastation Incorporated. And for me at the time, I'm like, oh man, that's awesome, and you start thinking about some of the names that were involved in that. Of course, the General Skandar Akbar, One Man Gang, Jake the Snake, Missing, all these guys throughout the history of wrestling that had been involved in that. And he told me, you're Devastation Incorporated. You're part of Devastation Incorporated. So when I went up to SICW, what I mean, it was fitting. It was fitting, to bring back Devastation Incorporated, to bring back what the General had established back in the 80s, and that's what we're doing. We're just continuing the legacy of Skandar Akbar, man. I mean, like that guy was way before his time. When you talk about somebody who could just get on the microphone, in fact, I have friends that tell me, that growing up, they were huge WCCW fans. I mean, I'm talking watching it from kids and stuff like that, because I didn't get that opportunity as a kid. I got to watch it later on, but telling me that man, there was nobody that scared him. One of my buddies, my riding buddy, Israel, he's my roadie, he's my driver and all that stuff that gets me everywhere and takes care of me when I'm on the road. He said that nobody scared him more than Skandar Akbar did. So, if I can continue, that part of Devastation Incorporated, if I can continue the legacy that he built, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, Skandar told me, says, you tell him, baby, everywhere you go. And I want to say, he said, you tell him, baby, everywhere, because he had that grovelly old voice. You tell him, brother, everywhere you go, you're Devastation Incorporated. And that's where we're derived from.
All right, I'm going to show this picture again.
Yeah.
And my question is, why are you so interested in purchasing SICW? And if you purchase SICW, what would be your plans moving forward?
Why I'm so interested in SICW? Everybody heard about Saudi Arabia's plans to purchase, WWE back last year or whatever. They went and looked. I've got investors in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai. I've got investors over there. My investors, may or may not have been part of that conglomerate that was looking at WWE. Now, when that fell through, a lot of people have asked, like, well, did they back out? Did WWE back out? And to be honest, I'm not really at liberty to say, but what I can say is that when the negotiations were done and over with, they started looking at SICW. They wanted Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling because they like that old school feel that Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling provides. They like the vibe that they're getting. And these guys over there, they love wrestling. Dubai is just a hotbed for professional wrestling. They want it over there. And it's not a matter of when I purchase SICW. It's a matter of hurry up, Herb. That's yalla. Come on, let's go. Let's get this moving. When I purchase SIW, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to come down to it. I'm going to purchase SICW, and we're gonna go ahead and make some tweaks, and we're going to work on the product here. We're going to add some cameras. We're going to add some smoke. We're going to add television. We're going to do everything that we see on Monday nights. Now, a lot of people get kind of upset because with that change is going to come obviously a change in ticket prices. We're going to have to raise the ticket prices and, all that good stuff. But hey, you're going to be getting a top-notch product, better than what we've got right now, better than anything that Herb Simmons could do, because these guys right here have a unlimited bankroll. They literally could turn SICW into a worldwide phenomenon, and that's what I want to do. I want to take SICW worldwide.
Awesome, man. So Glenn Williams,
good man,
gave me this question. See what Stephen E. would say if you'd be interested in partnering with him and managing him at some other promotions down the road.
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
Glenn, if you've been living under a rock, you probably don't know who Glenn Williams is, but Glenn Williams is the SICW Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
Guy is a phenomenal athlete. I mean, he is a master of social media, reels, stuff like that. He's so inspiring to me. He puts videos of himself. A few months back, I would say about 6 or 7 months back, he trained so hard for a match with the Big Texan, and he just worked that lariat to the point to where I was like, man, if these guys get together and Glenn hits him with that lariat, it could literally be like a felony.
Hello? He's in the middle of a story telling us about Glenn Williams. I don't know what happened and why it's paused. So this is Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. We've been talking to Stephen E. So we're going to wait for him to come back. Right now we're learning about SICW, Mid-States Wrestling, talking to Bobby, talking to Stephen E. Hopefully he comes back. Wi-Fi must be bad in the desert. That's maybe true, Bobby D. I don't know what happened. He froze up and now he disappeared. So, Bobby D, you have any questions for Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast? I have a few more questions to ask him about SICW. I'd hate to end the interview with like that. Maybe he'll come back. Not at the moment, but was an honor to be on yesterday. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you being on yesterday. So, I hope that he comes back. I'm going to hang out for a little bit.
If he's in the Midwest, there's a giant storm.
I just sent him a message, see if he's logging back in. He can if he wants. He might be dealing with that. There he is. There he is. There he is.
Oh man, I tell you, you know what? That right there, that question probably made a lot of people upset because all of a sudden my phone died. So I don't know who's
Right. What happened? I
my
mean,
network or whatever. But no, let me apologize before. Let me get everything ready over here. The reality of it was that that I probably should have charged my phone before.
well, you have
before
all
I,
that money. You have all that money, and I don't know. I mean, I'm wondering why you don't have better equipment if your phone's gonna die and all
I
this
tell
stuff.
it's not that I have bad equipment because I'm operating right here on an iPhone 15, so it's not a matter of equipment. I've got a $1,500 computer in my hand, but I was
Yeah,
just a little ill prepared. Let's just say
that's
that. But
okay. I hope
yeah.
that you're not a little ill prepared for tomorrow.
Oh man,
But
tomorrow is going to be huge,
we're
man.
gonna get
That's
that. I want to
huge.
save that for last.
Hmm.
So,
Let me finish that question up for Glenn. I
okay.
want to touch on that. Absolutely, I would love to manage Glenn Williams anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, I'd love to bring him down to mid states. That guy is talented like you wouldn't believe. He is like myself in the sense that he has an ability to really get under people's skin. I loved it. They did a thing when I was saying he was training for this Larry or this match with the Big Texan, and everybody knows the Big Texan's finishing move is the lariat, and so he was really emphasizing on laying in that lariat to the Big Texan. And anyways, they had their match, and it didn't quite go. I mean, it was a hard fought match. Don't get me wrong; it was a very hard fought match, but he came out on the losing side of things, and that lariat is no joke, and when you talk about the lariat, you know, uh, what comes to my mind is May 13th of last year when the Big Texan hit Attila Khan with that lariat to win the SICW Classic Heavyweight Championship from Attila Khan. I knew at that moment when he hit that it was not good. It was not good. Anybody who's on the other end of that lariat, it's not. I mean, for God's sakes, leading up to that event, I know that he was in talks with Stan Hansen. He was in talks with James Beard, who was the actual official of the match that we had. It just we had 50 legends there, and anybody that had anything to do with Texas was in Big Texas Corner, and we ended up on the short end of the stick that night, and we're still doing what we can to try to get back on top in SICW and get that classic heavyweight championship back. So that's what we're going to do. And this Saturday, this is just a stepping stone. This is just going in there with Gary Jackson, Night Train Gary Jackson. This is just going to establish, once we're done with Gary and we wipe his face into the mat and we walk away victorious, the only thing left is going to be the SICW Classic Heavyweight Championship for Attila Khan, and we're coming for it. But before we get there, we've got to get past Gary Jackson, and let me tell you what, Gary Jackson is a wily veteran, man. It doesn't get much better than Gary. He's been in the business for right at about 35 years, 40 years, 30, 35, 40 years, something like that. Been around the business for a very, very long time. Somebody told me that he actually used to sneak into the chase back when
Yeah,
wrestling with the chase was going on, and he would have to sneak in because he was only 14 years old, and to be able to get into the chase, you had to be 16, and and he was able to get in somehow, some way, and he's done a lot of different things over the years. He's been just a formidable opponent for many, many people. I mean, he's been a thorn in my side for about the last year, but come Saturday, January 13th, Belleville, Illinois, steel cage match. They think that throwing Danny Boy Hawkins in the mix is gonna tame me or gonna keep me from making sure that we walk out on top, but it's not gonna do any good. Danny Boy Hawkins, I'm gonna give him his respect. Danny Boy Hawkins was the first ever SICW Classic champion, so there's no doubt in my mind he's tough, but he's not Stephen E and he's not Attila Khan. And you never know what I'm gonna pull out of my pocket.
shots fired, man. Shots fired. So, Glenn Williams says, tell him you're his favorite manager. So that's what that
Thank
is.
you very much, Glenn. Thank you very much. And I don't know if I ever told you this, Glenn, but you might be my favorite wrestler outside of everybody in Devastation Incorporated.
There you go. So I got to ask you, Bobby Weedler says, ask him about being a champion in a wrestling dice game with Cowboy Bob Orton.
You know, we spoke a little bit earlier off air about the Cauliflower Alley Club, and you know, the Cauliflower Alley is an event, it's a conference, it's a convention that they put on every year in Las Vegas for wrestlers, and it's open to anybody. It's open to fans. It's open to wrestlers of the past, present, and future. It's open to everybody, and what it does is it provides a benevolent fund for, you know, for workers that don't have insurance that are falling on hard times and stuff. And you know, I can get behind that, like so many people, you know, that do. But you know, we went last year to the Cauliflower Alley, and they had the inaugural wrestling dice game, is what it's called. And boy, I've got it somewhere around here. I need to probably practice up a little bit so I can defend my championship. But you know, of course, we get there, and you know, and they it was a round robin tournament. You know, I think there was 10 of us involved, 10, maybe 12 of us involved. I think maybe 12, and we got to pick from these cards of who we wanted to be. Well, you know, of course, being, you know, with SICW and Cowboy Bob, you know, being such a huge part of SICW, you know, I went ahead and chose Bob to represent St. Louis, and by God, we ended up winning.
There you go.
We ended up winning. Let me tell you something about that game, though. The guy that I was supposed to go against in the first round, he didn't show. He just no showed us. So the guy, the host of the game, asked me. He goes, "Hey," he goes, "Well," he goes, "we can find another opponent, or you can buy into the second round. What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, what would Bob Orton do? What would Bob Orton do?" I said, "Shit, Bob Orton would take that buy and go straight to the second round, no questions asked." So, you know, did I go in with a little bit of an advantage? Maybe, but at the end of the day, I walked out. I was victorious. So, and I think I beat Harley Race in the finals.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we go further with this guy's questions. He said I can tell you that he said this. He likes to wear those dresses to the ring, the ground looking things the Middle Eastern people wear.
Oh yeah. You know what? That's called fashion. I don't know who said that. They called it a gown. It's not a gown. It's fashion. That's what it is. It's Middle Eastern fashion. And everybody in the world knows that when it comes to fashion, everybody looks towards the Middle East for tips, pointers, that type of thing. And I am simply just going out there wearing your typical Saudi Arabian garment.
So I heard you, for the same guy, I heard you have your own action figure.
Oh, I do. That is a custom, one of a kind, LJN, custom made by none other than Sin Bodie out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Sin Bodie, anybody that wants one, man, send him a message on Facebook. He'll get to you. He's great to work with. I've worked with him a couple of different times on a couple of different projects, and they're just phenomenal, man. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, LJNs were just the heat. You know, I mean, that's just my first ones was Hulk Hogan and Iron Sheik. You know, so if that tells you anything, you know, so I always loved them, and you know, I'm an avid toy collector. You know, and I've got a tub of LJNs that, you know, I think I'm only missing the black cards, you know, in my tub, and I've got some of them, but you know, there's a handful of them, you know, the Hakus and the Warlords, and you know, the Big Boss Mans that I don't have. But you know, outside of that, I do have Stephen E. So that you know, changes it up. And I love that figure, man. That figure is so awesome. I put it on my table, my merch table, every time I go out to any of my shows, man. And I get people all the time. They're like, "Hey, how much is this?" And it's like, "Not for sale, bud. You know, not for sale. That one's just for show."
That's awesome, man. Well, I got something that's just for show as well. And I got this custom design.
Nice, man. Nice. Nice. Very, very cool, man. Very cool.
That was my Christmas present to myself. So
well, there you go. Merry Christmas to yourself, man.
Merry Christmas myself.
That's a gorgeous looking championship title there, man.
Thank you. So let's get to the meat and potatoes of what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think it was I can't remember who it was that asked, but what is the prediction on the cage match tomorrow night against Gary Jackson with guest referee Danny Boy. And can you, I mean, I know your prediction. You said what you're going to do. You said that they're going to win no matter what. So Attila Khan is in the cage tomorrow night with Gary Jackson. What are your thoughts on this match, and what will be your involvement in the match? Should we expect the dirty player like fireballs?
Well, like I said before, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do, because then that would spoil any surprises. That would spoil any surprises that are going to happen. But what's going to happen is going to be simple. We're going to walk into Belleville. We're going to go in there. We're going to do what we do, and that's win. Now, if Danny Boy Hawkins wants to stick his nose in our business and not call it the way that it needs to be called, I'm not saying it needs to be called down the middle. It could go one way or the other. But Danny, if you put your nose in my business, there's going to be hell to pay. Let me just say that. I've got a Tillicon, to my right. I've got Peyton Ayers to my left. Both of those guys are not somebody that you want to mess with. I know that you're a former, SICW Classic Heavyweight Champion and all that good stuff, but that's not going to be good for you if you don't follow the rules to the game. And you know what the rules are, Danny. You know what the rules are. Don't sit there and pretend like you don't. You know what they are. And there's only going to be one outcome, and it's simple. It's going to be Attila Khan with his hand held high in the middle of the ring, and it's going to be as simple as that. We're going to walk out. We're going to win. And once we finish up this with Gary Jackson, then we can put focus on the Big Texan and what we're going to do to the Big Texan to get our championship belt back.
Do you have any fears of the Big Texan making his appearance during that match to make sure that doesn't happen?
Scott, are you telling me that somebody told you that there's a chance that he could make an appearance?
I'm saying, I'm just asking. You mentioned that their next goal is to go after Big Texan's title. What is your thoughts on an appearance, a possible appearance of the Big Texan making his way to the ring to stop you from getting to beating Gary Jackson? That's what I'm asking. I'm asking because you're outside the ring, your man's inside that cage, and I have a slight feeling that they're not going to let this go unnoticed because you're probably one of the dirtiest players in the game, and Big Texan's going to make damn well good and sure that you pay the price if you're going to use cheating stuff. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to stir nothing up. But be aware of what's going to happen, because that's a possibility.
So, Scott, what you're saying is that you're not trying to stir the pot, right?
Oh, I'm not.
But they call you the pot stirrer?
That is correct.
I've not really put much thought about that. In fact, I don't even like the idea of Big Texan being around whenever I'm out there, because you made a very valid point. If I'm on the outside of the cage and Attila Khan's on the inside of the cage and the Big Texan makes an appearance,
who's going to protect you? There's my question. That's the question. You don't need to be worried. Well, yeah, you do, because
I'm not worried. I'm just thinking now. I hadn't thought of that.
And then what happens? Let's twist it a little bit. And then what happens if you're not focusing on what's going on inside the cage because you're distracted by Big Texan? And what happens if your boy Attila Khan comes on the losing end of the match and he notices that you're not paying attention to what he's doing, and there's a break in the manager.
Don't, Scott. I get it. You're the pot stirrer. I get it. I know what you're trying to.
Attila Khan. When I talk to you, Attila Khan, when I talk to you, whenever I get that chance, I'm going to ask you, if you don't have that win, I'm going to ask you your thoughts of what happened outside the ring, why your manager didn't make it so you win. And that's
we're gonna have. You know what, Scott? We're gonna have to find out. We're gonna have to find out tomorrow. It's getting a little hot in here now. My blood pressure's starting to raise a little bit. You mentioned that, and I hadn't put much thought into that yet, Scott. And to be honest with you, yeah. To be honest with you, that's probably something I need to think about. Big Texan. I tell you what, Big Texan. He is not somebody that I personally want to get involved with. I don't mind being in the background, Peyton Ayers, or Attila Khan, but me, I'm not a wrestler. I don't want to get involved with any of that
I mean,
nonsense with him.
look what Bobby D said. Bobby D says Texan was also tag champ with Gary. He will watch his back for sure. So I'm not the only one that's trying to think this up. I think you really need to be on your game, just like the Kansas City Chiefs better be on their game when they play the Dolphins. I'm telling you, Gary Jackson's in that ring, and he's good friends with Big Texan. Believe that.
Best friends. I don't know why I've not thought about this yet. This could be an issue, Scott. This could be a very big issue, a very, very big issue.
And I mean, you seem like to be a good guy here, and I'm just trying to help you watch your back because you better be more prepared. You might need to get up. Yeah, go ahead.
I've got it. It's simple. Before the steel cage match, Peyton Ayers has a shot at the SICW Classic Heavyweight Championship, right? So what Peyton Ayers needs to do is he needs to take the Big Texan out. He needs to win that championship from the Big Texan. That way he brings that championship back home to Devastation Incorporated, hands it to me, and I can hand it right over to Attila Khan.
So what you're saying is you're using Big Texan's opponent to get something that you rightfully didn't earn. You had somebody else earn it for you. You almost sound like Bobby, or you almost sound like Bobby Heenan, or you almost sound like Mr. Yeah, you do. Because now you're saying, hey, to me, so I can give it to Attila Khan, who didn't earn it. Attila Khan needs to focus on beating Gary Jackson first.
Are you kidding me, Scott? He's going to go in there and he's going to beat Gary Jackson in that steel cage tomorrow night. He's going to beat Gary Jackson. When he beats Gary Jackson, that will be his prize. That will be his reward for winning that match, because Peyton Ayers is going to. In fact, Big Texan's wife posted a picture of the SICW Classic Heavyweight Championship earlier this week, and I told her to take her time shining that thing up. So whenever Peyton puts it on and Peyton wins it, it's going to look great, and it's going to look great for a little bit. Once I take that belt from Peyton and I hand it over to Attila Khan, it's going to be glorious. It's going to be great. I hope that Gary Jackson has prayed. I hope he has prayed to his God that Attila Khan has mercy on him. And if he hasn't, then we might go ahead and help him with that.
Hey, Peyton, I hope you're hearing what he's saying. Peyton, you're going to go at him against the Big Texan tomorrow night, have this match. And if you win that belt, which I don't think you will, because I don't think you can take the lariat more than once. When you win that match, and I don't think so, you're going to have to hand it over to Stephen E. to give to Attila Khan, who didn't earn that. I want to know how Peyton feels about that concept. No.
Listen to me, okay?
I'm listening.
Peyton Ayers works for me. Peyton Ayers does what I tell him to do. Peyton Ayers is on my payroll.
Right.
It's very simple. Do you think for 1 second that Peyton Ayers is going to have ill feelings towards me when I tell him, Peyton, give me that championship title? You think he's not going to have any ill feel, because everybody that's a part of Devastation Incorporated knows that the end game is what matters.
Well,
right?
Okay, but let's look back to Randy Orton, Batista being part of Evolution and all this stuff. And when you win the championship, you get knocked on your ass because they wanted you out because you just gave them something. But is this what's going to happen? No, I don't think you got control of your boys, because I think I think you got more problems on your hand now that I mentioned Big Texan than you really think. So you better be prepared.
We are very prepared. We are.
You didn't look like you were
very prepared.
You didn't look like you were prepared.
You know what? It just took a second. I'm a little different than most of these people that you talk to. I've got to let what you said marinate, and I got to come up with the right answer, and that is the right answer. It's simple, and I don't know why I didn't think about it when you first started talking about it. It's simple. It's easy, actually. We're going to have Peyton Ayers go out and beat the Big Texan. Simple as that. It's as simple as that, Scott.
I think you're right, Bobby D. Steven employs monsters, not scholars. They're not the smartest guys in the book. I'm just saying it doesn't appear that they're the smartest guys in the book. If Peyton's gonna hand it over, he's not very smart.
Are you kidding me?
No.
You're kidding me. You're telling me, look at the success that we've had in Devastation Incorporated. Attila Khan was the SICW champion for well over a year. well over a year. Peyton Ayers
And
had the
now
most
he's not.
successful year, of his professional wrestling career. Not only did he come into SICW and steamroll over his opponents, he played D'Lo Brown on the Young Rock. You know, I tell him all the time that we need to start calling him Mr. As Seen on TV, Peyton Ayers, because of his weekly episodic, his episodes that he had every week, because he was a huge star. That show would not be where it is if it wasn't for the likes of Peyton Ayers pulling off what he did.
I'm just saying, I'm just calling it like I see it.
It's irritating to me that you're trying to stir the pot over here, Mr. Pot Stirrer. You're trying to get my boys worked up, and you're trying to explain this narrative that doesn't make sense. Everybody in Devastation Incorporated understands the situation. Everybody knows the assignment. Everybody knows what we've got to do. This isn't just about Peyton Ayers. This isn't about Stephen E. This isn't about Attila Khan. This is about Devastation Incorporated. And Devastation Incorporated I'm going to tell you, as the leader of Devastation Incorporated, that championship belt belongs around the waist of Attila Khan.
Then why does Attila Khan go and prove it to Big Texas? Why do you have to take what Peyton Ayers might?
Scott, let me explain something. Let me explain something to you. In the world of professional wrestling, there's this thing called politics. That's what's kept Attila Khan out of the championship title picture, because of politics. There's people that are in SICW who don't like me, quite frankly, and don't like my alliance with the Saudi Arabians. And that's fine, whatever. It doesn't matter. But what does matter is you can't take away the fact that Attila Khan is the most dangerous wrestler on God's green earth, is an international bounty hunter. The guy is a monster. I would not want to walk into the ring and look across and look into this man's eyes and expect to not walk out of there with broken bones. This man is a monster. So everybody that's a part of Devastation Incorporated knows that we revolve around Attila Khan. Attila Khan is our bounty hunter. He is the bread and butter of Devastation Incorporated. So it only makes sense that he carries the championship.
I just wonder.
I know what you're doing, Scott. You're stirring the pot here, and
I wonder.
And after tomorrow, there's going to be no questions, because what you're saying is not going to happen. We don't have to worry about the Big Texan coming out and trying to or do something to me. We don't have to worry about that, because you know what? He's going to be in the back, probably got ice on his shoulders, or his knee might be blown out. Who knows? It depends on how bad Peyton Ayers beats the crap out of him.
But I wonder. I'm going to put myself in Peyton Ayers' shoes. I'm going to get the lariats. I might win the belt after a hard-earned fight, because that's what he's going to have to do to beat Big Texans. It's going to be hard-earned. Earned is my word, okay? Listen to that word, earned, right? I'm going to earn this, and then I'm going to have a guy tell me I have to give it to him, to give it to Attila Khan, who's not going to win the match in the cage. If I'm your man, I am going to be pissed, and I'm going to say hell no.
Scott, that is exactly why you will never be a member of Devastation Incorporated. What you just said right there is probably the most selfish thing that I've ever heard anybody say. You're sitting here telling me that you wouldn't give the championship to...
You use the word selfish. Look in the mirror, look in the camera, and listen to what you just said. 5 minutes ago, young man Stephen E. says this. Peyton's going to walk into that match against Texan. He's going to have the fight of his life. He's going to earn that title. He's going to walk that title down to me, who deserves it, and I'm going to give it to Attila Khan. If I'm selfish, what the hell does that make you?
We're a cohesive unit.
Selfish.
We're a cohesive unit. That's what that makes us cohesive. You see, Peyton does what I tell him to do. Peyton. I
hope Peyton. I hope you're listening to this.
Peyton, after we walk away tomorrow with your victory, and you have that coveted SICW Classic Heavyweight Championship, and you hand it to me, we're going to do the right thing, and we're going to hand it over to Attila Khan. Selfish. That's exactly right. It's not selfish. You don't understand. You don't understand the assignment. You don't know how the world of professional wrestling works. This right here is a very smart move by me. This is a very smart move by me. If we can get that, if we can lay this plan out, if we can do this, Peyton is the first part of the plan. Peyton goes in there and he destroys the Big Texan. And then Attila Khan goes in there and wipes Gary Jackson's face on the mat and walks out, you know, the winner of the steel cage match. That will be his reward. I will go up to him and I will present him with the SICW Classic Heavyweight Championship. That is such a great idea. Thank you very much, Scott, for inspiring me to think about that.
I'm going to say this. You're going to give a man that didn't earn it the belt.
Scott, we work smarter, not harder in Devastation.
How in the hell does that make Attila Khan feel where he didn't? How you're going to carry around this belt knowing full well you didn't do nothing for it?
Sure we did.
He did not. No, I mean, he did. Okay. So if you're so fixated on that belt, how come he's not facing a Big Texan? How come you're having Peyton face it? Okay, are you saying Peyton's better than Attila Khan?
No. That's what I told you earlier. Is it's simple. It's called politics in professional wrestling. They don't want to see Attila Khan with the championship belt. They don't want that. Nobody wants to see that in the booking committee at SICW. They don't like me. They don't like Attila Khan. They don't like Peyton Ayers. They don't like Devastation Incorporated. Well, that's simple. We're not going to go in there and we're not going to play fiddle. We're not going to sit there and shake hands, kiss babies to get what we want. We're going to go take what we want, and that's going to be how we do it.
So what if Peyton Ayers goes, he wins the belt, and he comes up to you and smacks you in the face with the belt and says, "Screw you"?
He won't do it.
You don't know that? Are you sure?
No, absolutely. I know that. Absolutely, I know that. I don't think you realize how deep my pockets are, my friend. I don't think you realize, that money makes the world go round. And whenever you have the money, you have the power. When you have the power, you make the decisions. And quite frankly, I'm the one that makes the decisions here at SICW for Devastation Incorporated.
It appears to me that I'm stirring and stirring and stirring.
You are doing a great job of stirring the pot.
And it seems like it's going around in a full circle. But I still have to say this. I won last time. What it sounds like to me, here on the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast, you can go back and watch the video. I don't care. What it sounds like to me, these words were coming out of Stephen E's mouth, okay? He says, and I quote, or sort of quote, he says, Peyton is going to go in and beat Big Texan.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to put that belt on for a few minutes, walk it over to Stephen E., hand it to Stephen E., and after Attila Khan wins or loses against Gary Jackson, he's going to hand it to Attila Khan because Attila Khan earned it. If I'm Peyton, I'm listening to this, I'm feeling like, okay, then what about me?
He not only earned it, he deserves it. He deserves to be the SICW Classic Heavyweight Champion.
Okay, then what's your problem? What's your problem?
I told you earlier, May 13th, 2023, the deck was stacked against us. We had James Beard, an official from Texas, right? A legendary official from Texas, officiating the match between the Big Texan and Attila Khan for the SICW Classic Heavyweight Champion. You had Stan the Lariat Hansen, who was advising the Big Texan on the match. Come on, you've got, I know the Nasty Boys had something to do with it. Herb Simmons had told me that the Nasty Boys had been in contact. I had heard 3 or 4 other people that I won't mention that were in contact with him. So you're telling me that the deck was not stacked against us in May?
Okay, boss man. Okay. But here's a question for you. If you think Attila Khan deserves it, how about this? Herb, I hope you're listening. Herb. Let's say, and I don't think it's going to happen, but Peyton's going to go in and he beats the Big Texan. I don't think that's going to happen, but we're going to play along with Stephen E's story. Let's say Peyton wins. Why not? Why not do this if you want to do things right, which you probably don't? Why don't you do this? Why don't you put your boy Peyton in a match against your boy Attila Khan and fight it out like brothers to see who deserves the championship? Or are you that afraid that Attila Khan would get beat by Peyton?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not afraid of anything. But I will not let the pot stirrer come into Devastation Incorporated and stir the pot between these two men. Everybody that is a member of Devastation Incorporated knows what they need to do to further the agenda of Devastation Incorporated. And it's pretty simple. It's not a pride thing. It's not something that most people would understand. You're right. Most people wouldn't be happy with handing over a championship that they probably fought their entire career to attain. Nobody would want to do that. But if you listen to me, I've worked wonders. I've worked miracles. I've taken more men to the promised land than Pat Riley. You know, I tell you what, if Peyton listens to me, the future is going to be bright for Peyton. His time is in the future. Right now, it's Attila Khan's time, and it's that simple.
What I see happening is if that plays out, what I see happening is you guys ride into the sunset, and Peyton Manning's in the background. Peyton's in the background going, "What about me?"
No, absolutely not. Absolutely. Peyton knows where he stands in Devastation Incorporated. And
at the bottom of the list.
The fans, there is no bottom of the list when it comes to Devastation.
That's where he stands in my book.
Absolutely not. Well,
that's how you're making him sound.
That's not where he stands in my book. He is we're on the level. Everybody is an equal member, and everybody in Devastation Incorporated knows how we're going to get to the next level.
Because it sounds like Peyton is doing something that Attila Khan couldn't do back in 2023.
Oh yeah. Again, I said it before. I won't go into it about politics and how the deck was stacked against Attila Khan, but it wasn't going to happen that night. The powers that be, whoever, wasn't going to let that happen, and we were cheated out of the championship belt, and that's all there is to it.
I'm just going to say this to close. You can close the show, but I'm going to say this last remark. Better watch your back, because I wouldn't try. I mean, if there's Big Texan, there's going to be more.
I tell you what, Scott, you have definitely lived up to your name. You are a pot stirrer. There is no doubt in my mind that you are the pot stirrer in the world of professional wrestling. But trying to cause friction, trying to create a fracture in Devastation Inc. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. We are a cohesive unit. We all work together. Everybody in Devastation Incorporated knows that if you just follow the plan that Stephen E. lays out, that the promised land is there. The money will be there, the fame will be there, everything will be there. You just gotta listen to what I'm saying.
I wonder how good Devastation X, Stephen E., Attila Khan, Peyton are going to sleep tonight after hearing what the Huge Pop said on the Huge Pop Wrestling podcast. Now, that story is going to be in your head, and you're not going to be able to sleep tonight because you're going to be worried about what's going to happen, how Peyton's going to react, how Attila Khan's going to react, and look where you're going to be at the end of the night. I hope that you have something good happen at the end of the night, because your night, in my book, doesn't look very promising. You take them to the promised land. I think you're overthinking it. I think you're not going to get to the promised land, because in my book and what I see you going up against, unless you hold up to you the dirtiest player in the game, like I've seen you are, fireballs, whatever, you need to watch your back.
Well, I guess here's the deal, Scott. You want to see what happens on Saturday night? Show up, buy a ticket, and watch what we do. We are going to go in there, and we're going to walk out victorious in the steel cage match. We're going to walk out victorious in the Peyton Ayers Big Texan match. There's nothing that anybody can say or do about that. It's going to happen. It's Attila Khan's time to take over and to take back control of that championship. And when we have that championship back in Devastation Incorporated, we get to make the rules. We get to make the politics. Not them.
I don't have a problem. I'm seeing, the thing is, you're twisting my words. I don't have a problem with Attila Khan winning that champ, but he needs to win it. I mean, I would not be if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs and I win the Super Bowl because I cheated, that doesn't make me a good team. That makes me a cheater. Why would I not want it? Why would I want to take a belt that I didn't earn? Man, That's all I'm
Scott,
asking.
Scott, I said it before. And I'm gonna leave you with these words right here.
It's all politics.
And I want you to remember these words, okay?
You go for it. Go for
and
it.
I want you to preach these words to every child, every kid, everybody that you know in life. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying hard enough. I don't care what you say. I don't care what anybody says. That is the creed that I live by. And by God, I've seen so much success over the years because of that creed. Why would I turn my back on it? Why would I change the way that I do things? Why would I change the formula? It's not going to happen. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying hard enough.
But you better remember this. Where there's a cheater, there's someone better. I'm not saying Big Texan is a cheater. What I'm saying is you better believe Gary Jackson, because he knows who you are. He will have something in his back pocket. You say you still have something up your sleeve. He has something up his sleeve, and I guarantee you he won't be there alone. I guarantee you that championship belt won't go to Attila Khan. I think you have more issues in your faction than you're aware of, and that's what's going to happen tomorrow night, and I hope you're prepared.
Scott, the pot stirrer, you have lived up to your name, and I will not let you cause a strife in Devastation Incorporated. I will not. There is no problems. There is no worries. There is nothing that you say that is going to change the outcome for tomorrow night. We are going to walk in there and we are going to win. We're going to do what we do best, and that's win. And we're going to walk away, and I'm going to take that championship belt and I'm going to hand it to Attila Khan because he deserves to be the champion right now. Not saying that Peyton doesn't deserve it, but it's not Peyton's time right now. Peyton knows that when his time is here that he will have all the time in the world, but not right now. Right now, it's Attila Khan's time.
Sounds like to me Attila Khan can't win a belt, so all he can do is lose a belt. But
we don't win belts in professional wrestling,
no.
Scott. We win titles.
Okay.
Belts hold your pants up. We win titles.
All right, so it sounds like to me Attila Khan can't win a title if you have to have somebody else do your dirty work. But Stephen E., it's been a pleasure. I will let you close the show. You can say whatever you did say, get off your chest before tomorrow. Then I'm going to play some music, but don't go anywhere. Stay in the green room. We'll chat. You go ahead. Right. The floor is yours.
All right, Gary Jackson, I know who you are. I know what you've done over the last 30, 35 years, 40 years, but it doesn't matter because in Belleville, Illinois, on January the 13th, you, my friend, have a date with destiny. You have a steel cage match with the most dangerous wrestler on God's green earth, Attila Khan, and it's not going to be pretty. I don't care that they put Danny Boy Hawkins in there to kind of keep me under control. It's not going to happen. Danny Boy Hawkins, you need to do the best that you can do, and you need to call it right down the middle, maybe a little to our side. It doesn't matter. But Danny Boy Hawkins, if you stick your nose in my business, it's not going to play out well for you. Peyton Ayers, he's going to walk in there. He's going to tell the Big Texan that he should probably just give him that belt and save him some time in a beating. If he just hands that belt over to Peyton, give it to Peyton. Peyton can give it to me, and then I can give it to Attila, and we can just call it a night. At the end of the day, Devastation Incorporated is the most elite faction in professional wrestling today. We, my friend, we don't play by the rules. We make the rules. And to be honest with you, a lot of people say that if you get on Stephen E.'s bad side, well, you never know what comes next. Boys, I'll here.
All my dogs, make some noise up in this house. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your head is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out.
Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with the devil, because when he's dealing with you, you cannot get on this level.
Fight with Adrian Whisper, it's like a fight with a king. It's like a fight with an army, they got the tanks and everything.
He's leaving bruises and stitches, possibly leaving you crippled, cause when he sets up the table and sends you straight through the middle.
Six sadistic free, beat that ass with a light bulb. Leave a piece of glass embedded in the back of your skull. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the